as we talk about distressed properties, I want to premise it with this. I am not saying or expecting anything like 2008. Not by any stretch of the imagination. I am not preparing my buyers, sellers, investors for any kind of catastrophic event to take place. However, we have a saying on our team, and we preach it to our team almost every single week. Money never disappears, it just moves. And opportunities just seem to move. And so the conversation that I'm having and having with my investors is I think that, maybe within the next 12 months that we're going to start to see more and more distressed property opportunities for investors. I'm not saying that there's going to be a ton of them, but as agents, we're out and about talking to sellers all the time and going on listing appointments. I think you're going to start to see more and more people getting 30 days behind, 60 days behind. And especially when somebody is 60 days behind, that is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to help someone as well as to possibly take advantage of an investment opportunity. So what I've personally been seeing is, we saw, during COVID, interest rates in the mid twos to mid threes, everybody jumping on that, having these stellar, interest rates and mortgage payments, and then they rack up all this credit card debt. All right, and now we're seeing, Matt, record level credit card debt in this country.
I'm seeing it. I've got 2-3 loan applications on my desk with over $75,000 in credit card debt spread over 15 to 20 cards.
Yeah.
And you look at interest rates at 25, 27%. Like, I'm doing the analysis for these folks, and they're like, I can only imagine the stress that they're feeling.
And so these people then who are sitting on a lot of equity had let's just call it a 3.25% interest rate, have got no choice than to do a cash out refinance, pay off that debt. And if you're crappy with your credit 3 years ago, chances are you're going to be crappy with your credit now. And I'm starting to see these people again rack up credit card debt. We are starting to see people lose their jobs, not be able to afford, and not being able to afford their payment. We are in the middle of two short sales right now, those situations. And I'm just thinking and I'm believing that we're going to see more and more of that. Todd, what are your thoughts?
Well, no, I think that there's a number of different ways to look at these issues. Obviously, from the distress perspective, a consumer has had the opportunity over the last few years because appreciation has been so rampant that they had great equity in their homes. Over half, I believe, is the national number of all homeowners have over 35% equity in their home. But you offset that with credit card debt. So, for instance, if you're increasing your credit card debt over here, it's nice to say you got the equity, but the only way to get the equity out of your house is to sell it or to further indebt it, and that's not a good idea either. And I know so many people are always like, "Oh yeah, I've got so much equity. I'm going to go get a home equity line. I'm going to go buy a new car with it. That's $75,000-$80,000 Now, whether they told the truth or they lied about how they got that particular home equity loan, the point that I'm trying to make is they're spending it on campers, trailers, outdoors things, boats, all these additional, and they're not little debts that are like, oh, I got a $50 thing or a $100 thing or a $500 thing. They're going out and buying a $35,000 to $150,000 thing. So, and they're just unable to make those payments on those loans.
Yeah, and even, Matt, if they don't need all of their equity to pay off this credit card debt, the big deal is now I'm going from a 3.25% interest rate. Yeah. I need $75,000 to pay off this credit card, but if I do a cash out refinance, I'm now getting a brand new loan with depending on when they got the loan, high sixes to mid sevens.
Well, true, but I'm actually seeing that they're saving thousands of dollars. And now you can look at the option of, and at Guild, we can actually select the date. So, like, if it's 3 years into the loan, we can actually set the amortization at 27, which helps them not feel like they're running back and to start the amortization
I'm
clock
not.
all
I'm
over
not
again?
worried about them. What they're feeling like. I'm worried about them. All of a sudden, they just can't. They're not going to be able to afford it because it's a
Well,
big
it's a
difference.
Band-Aid. It's a
It's
Band-Aid. Yeah.
exactly a bad. And for some people, it'll be fine. But we're seeing unemployment numbers, and we're seeing earnings drop. We don't know obviously what's going to happen in the next 12 months or the rest of
And
this
I had a
year.
thought about distressed and this term distressed, because distress can mean many things. And distress doesn't necessarily mean that they're underwater. It just means that they are feeling stressed because they have all this other debt. So maybe they need to sell and go rent for a time being to clean them stuff up. Because a lot of people with $75,000 in credit card debt, credit's in the tank because they're at maxing out all their debt. And so them being able to sell and then buy right away might not be in the option. So this may be a trend of that potentially happening too.
And to the fact of money moving hands, the situation is jobs do the same thing. There are times when a particular industry or a particular career or a particular opportunity is there for a moment, and then it just dries up because the world continues to move forward and shifts and changes. And so, education has always been one of those things that's kind of allowed you the opportunity, if you have an associate's or a bachelor's or an MBA, depending upon the caliber of the job you're looking for. But most of the time, that knowledge gives you the better ability to bounce, to change, to shift into another career, because sometimes there's just mutual application of, say, business management, right? So sometimes people have to sell because they're now having to relocate because the job that they had today is no longer in Arizona, it's now in Texas, or the job is no longer in aerospace, and now all of a sudden I've got to shift into something else. What we have to remember is service industries aren't necessarily going away, but some of those other industries are, production and things of that nature are going away, and that's a big thing. And who are the people who need those jobs, and where are those jobs? I heard just this past week over in Vistancia, everybody's all upset because this new 5 North area, 5 City North, whatever it's called, over at 303 and Lone Mountain that's going up. They're all upset because they're putting in some businesses that support the TSMC plant. Well, granted, maybe I don't like the location, but they just brought 3,000 jobs to that intersection.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you got to wake up. You have to look at, you've got to, it's kind of like the old-fashioned thing, capitalism versus, welfare system and the taking care of humans. I mean, the fact is that you have to be able to pay your debts. That's the big thing. If you can't pay your debts, you're fooling yourself. You shouldn't be increasing your spending. You shouldn't be looking for new things. But you got to shift.
All right, so to Matt's point, I'll clarify, and you're right, 100% right. Distress can mean a variety of different things. So for our discussion, I'll just kind of narrow it down what I'm looking at. And again, there's a lot of possibilities out there. I am not anticipating, again, I'm not having conversations with my buyers or sellers that we are headed for rough real estate times here in Phoenix. I don't believe that whatsoever. But there are people that are going to get 30 days, 60 days, 90 days behind on their payments for a variety of reasons. And oftentimes I find it amazing because when somebody, and Matt, you probably you talk to more people when it comes down to their personal
Credit,
finances and credit, is oftentimes somebody who's 30 or 60 days late still has enough equity to be able to sell and salvage everything, put money in their pocket or whatever the case is. Right. But pride takes over and shame takes over. And next thing you know, they get 30 days, they get 60 days, and then they let the entire foreclosure process go through its course. Whereas if they had somebody like, a real estate professional to come in and give them options and go, hey, listen, you got some equity. I'm amazed, though, when people get 30 days behind, a lot of just shame consumes them, takes over.
Wow. Yeah, that's probably the bigger stat there, right? Is they don't come forward because they are embarrassed or feeling ashamed, and they're leaving the money on the table,
Yeah, I think, again, it goes to you can either sell yourself or you can listen to what their situation is and then apply your real estate experience to what they need to help get out of that. And so, sometimes the opportunity to listen, multiple question deep into what's going on in their life and why they really need to sell could elevate some clues. But again, Mike, you talked about getting ahead of the distress curve. And I'd like to go there
Sure.
because, I really think that that's really what this is all about. The third word, an open discussion. Okay, that's us here. But you need to have, as consumer, as agents, open discussions about this topic, just in a casual room environment that just get people to start thinking. And then as long as you're not a secret real estate agent, they know that you hold a real estate license, and they know that you sound like you're more intelligent than the average agent because, you're talking about these types of things. How do you get ahead of that? What's your strategy for coming in with content and being prepared? Because not everybody can. You go into this, you can also get eaten alive. You go in and you have this conversation with somebody. You really don't know what you're talking about. It's going to show all over.
Well, yeah, and I guess that's the key. Yeah. You got to really know what you're talking about. But then again, I host this podcast every Monday morning, and I'm proof that you don't need to know anything about what you're talking about. Yeah, okay, I think it's a great question, and I think one is understanding the opportunities are coming up. Two, understanding the options that a homeowner has when they start missing their payments, and what is the difference between, first of all, as an agent, I think we all need to be, re-educate ourselves on what short sales are. What's the difference between a short sale and a foreclosure? What's the difference on your credit? Why is a short sale better than a foreclosure? And then being able to have conversations with people who are 30, 60 days late, or having conversations with people who know people who are 30, 60 days late. Fortunately, Ryan and I, we have a podcast, so we're able to talk about this, in the podcast world or sphere or whatever the heck you want to call it. We got a team of 25, real estate wealth managers on our teams that are going out having conversations with sellers and so forth, and finding these opportunities. And then, we have very specific lists that we can acquire where I can get names, phone numbers, and emails of people who are 30 days late, 60 days late. And what's the difference between someone who's 30 days late and 60 days late? And are you willing to pick up the phone and have a different type of conversation? Because really the ultimate goal is bringing options to the table. We are not sharks. We're not trying to take advantage of people. We're really trying to bring options to the table. But if at the end of the day, they're not going to listen, or they're in such bad shape, then is a short sale better than a foreclosure? And then going down that road.
Yeah, I think the other thing to think about on that too is the broker's perspective. And the broker's perspective is going to be, if you have a conversation with somebody and you lead them into the fact that you are a real estate salesperson, you're offering soliciting services for West USA Realty or whatever brokerage you may work for, so you're acting in full capacity as a real estate agent, and then at some particular point you shift gears and you decide you want to purchase that particular property. There is a huge landmine field there, and so my recommendation is to make sure you've had conversations with a designated broker, or at least the managing broker staff, about that going into it, because this is where some of the greatest liability for a real estate agent exists. Now, in the other portion of that, you can obviously represent people in these types of scenarios. This is a great niche market, but you do have to hone your skill on what a short sale is.
Well, the way I figure with the broker liability and things like that, they're pretty busy with all the BBA changes right now. So anything else I do is just
contract loss 6 years following the close of escrow, buddy.
Only thing I was gonna add to that in talking about what to say, and I'm certified in something called Exactly What to Say. It's Phil Jones. If you haven't read the book, there's a real estate version of Exactly What to Say. Just coming from a space of curiosity and empathy, those two are the main contributors to having good open dialogue, and not put someone feeling like that's in a stressful situation that you're out to shark them or you're trying to get them and whatnot. So just a plug for that, Phil Jones' book, Exactly What to Say. Really, specifically in this genre, it's what you need to have those better conversations. But in all of real estate, if you can be open-minded and curious and you can ask the right questions, you're going to have better success in general.
All right, so a little teaser. I just, because for the sake of time, so next Monday on the 3-pack, I'm going to go through when I'm having a discussion. I'm walking to a house, somebody's 30 days late, behind on their mortgage payment. What are the options that I'm bringing to the table? How am I providing my fiduciary responsibility? How am I coming in with the perspective of how do we help these people, and so forth. So we'll talk about that next Monday. Appreciate it, Matt. Thanks so
Awesome.
much. All
Well,
right,
this is pretty
good
good.
stuff. All right,
Yeah.
first open.